And welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers, we're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. We welcome in Brad Yarbrough today.
Yeah, Brad is going to come in and talk to us about what's going on. There's always a lot going on in Brad's life. We've titled this show, Brad Yarbrough, A Man for All Seasons. That's because of his breadth of experience and energy level, and he's always got a lot of things going on at once, and I think our audience will find it interesting.
He's had a lot of involvement in a lot of really interesting projects.
He has indeed. He's been involved, as we will find out, in the Murrah building bombing, dealing with the clergy. He was involved in a similar effort at 9/11 in New York, and he's in private business, and he's got a lot of other activities that we'll find out about.
We will. It's today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
When someone looks at me, they looked at the disability before they look at the person.
Nothing builds esteem like having a job and being able to provide for yourself.
At Goodwill, we turn donations and resources into jobs.
There's so much that a person can do with a disability that's beyond our wildest dreams.
The parallel between repurposing things and repurposing people lies in seeing the value.
If you give me a chance, I won't let you down.
The resources that we are now seeing from Chesapeake, which did start with a financial contribution, has grown into other resources. They are willing to have their staff provide time, energy, expertise. Chesapeake opens doors for Goodwill. It is the right example to give to people who are refashioning their lives, and their future is brighter.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Today it's fun to have a friend on the show, somebody that I work with often. Brad Yarbrough is the owner of the Pilgrim Group. He's active in both profit and nonprofit organizations. Did his undergraduate work at Southern Nazarene University, where he graduated cum laude. He founded several companies which, after they got off the ground and he worked with them to a certain point, they were acquired by larger companies. And that's been kind of his pattern, is to start something and work it up until it's profitable, and then see what can happen with it. He has been a management consultant with Phillips Petroleum, with Citgo, and several other large oil and gas companies. He was a clergy coordinator during the Murrah bombing activities. Right after the bombing, he was in charge of trying to coordinate the activities of the clergy in that atmosphere. He also did some work at 9/11 right after that, helping out on some of the activities that were involved with that. He is the founder of and a member of the Oklahoma City Leadership Group. He is also recently appointed chairman of the Department of Human Services Commission. I guess it's the Human Services Commission, but it deals with the Department of Human Services. But other than that, Brad doesn't have anything to do. He's looking for some work. So, Brad, glad to have you.
Thank you, Kent. Good to be with you, Mayor.
One of the things we want to talk to you about was the DHS Commission. Can you briefly kind of explain what that is to begin with?
The commission was established by the Constitution as an oversight body for the Department of Human Services. Of course, when it was established in 1933, it was a relatively small Department of Human Services. It's grown to be a gigantic organization, and leading it along with 8 other commissioners has become a relatively full-time job.
Are you in charge of hiring the executive director, for instance?
It is one of the constitutional duties, Mayor. It is charged to us to hire, to review the director, and we're in that process right now.
Are you basically satisfied with the percentage of the dollars that are expended by the department in the direction that they're expended? Because, as you said, the budget is large.
Yeah, it's over a $2 billion budget. Much of it comes from the federal government, but and requires a state matching budget to be able to pull that federal money in. It is gargantuan, and I have not gotten into all of the different places we spend money, but from a high level, it appears as though we're doing a fairly good job. And of course, as the needs of Oklahomans continue to expand, you would think that, of course, we would need a larger budget, but we're in a time of shrinking budgets, and so it's quite a task to oversee it.
This is a volunteer position, right? Unpaid. That's what
Yeah,
I mean.
it's a challenging position. It's consuming, it's complex, but it's critically important to the community. And, yes,
I'm sure there's a lot of times when you realize the good that the department is doing, and you're playing what you might say is a small role. I would say is a larger role in all of that.
well, that's right. My wife Carolyn, would like for me to take a paying position with some of these volunteer tasks that I have. But no, it is a volunteer, non-paid position.
About how much time in a given week would you spend working on commission work versus pilgrim work or other things that you're involved with?
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. Steve Bailey was a former chairman of the commission. So I called him. I said, Steve, how many hours a month is this likely to take? And he said, 10 hours, maybe 15. Well, it's been 10 or 15 hours a week. In fact, just this morning, a couple of hours, routinely over a dozen phone calls a day. There are some days it's all day long. But it is a very, very demanding position.
Okay, when you're not running the businesses and you're not volunteering at DHS, what do you do?
Well, I like to relax. We have, Carol and I have 2 grandchildren, Wyatt and Eli, and we look for as many opportunities to take those grandkids who live here in Oklahoma City. One more on the way, about 5 more weeks, and our daughter will be having her third baby, another little boy. So really, I gave up golf, Mayor, a long time ago. I'm not able to play basketball anymore. I don't play cards. I don't go out and do a lot of things just for fun. Don't play tennis. I really just enjoy being with family when I'm not working.
You go to the lake or something from time to time? I mean, it seems like I catch you down at the lake once in a while.
Well, we do have a place that we like to retreat to, and we enjoy that a couple of weekends a month.
Tell us about your work with the clergy during the Murrah Building bombing. How did that come about, and what did you do?
You know, Kent, I was a bivocational pastor during those years. I didn't start out in life thinking I'd be a minister. Certainly really don't think of myself as one now, and even then, really not one. But I was having Bible studies in our home. Those people began to call me their pastor. And I'd say, no, quit calling me your pastor. But that grew into a small church. When the bomb went off that morning, I felt a need to help, just like so many other people in Oklahoma and throughout the world. I passed a blood bank that morning that had a line that must have been 50 yards long. I felt the need to do something. I went to St. Anthony's Hospital. Gurneys were lined up on the sidewalk. Ambulances were streaming in. And I went in just to see if there was a place where I could help. And there was. Family members were moving from hospital to hospital looking for loved ones. That needed some organization. So I began to pitch in. Later that night, that transcended into what we called the Family Assistance Center, which was then at the First Christian Church on Northwest 36th. Again, just stayed to help. And pretty soon, there were fingers pointing at me saying, would you be in charge of the clergy efforts here at this center?
Describe a little bit more specifically about your memories of that morning and family members showing up not knowing where their loved ones might be and sort of a desperation attempt that maybe they might just be injured and not be buried.
Well, that's right. So there were different scenarios that morning at the St. Anthony's Hospital. Some people were coming in rather composed. There were others that had already, they were already just stricken with terrible grief. And it really required a response at all levels that people found themselves at emotionally. But what there was a tremendous amount of fear, a tremendous amount of insecurity, and the unknown. Mm-hmm. So I began to call the other hospitals, asking if they would provide us a list of those people they knew that they had at their hospital. We began making butcher paper lists of each hospital so we could put those names so that people didn't have to go from hospital to hospital. I have rather vivid memories of some of the individuals who were there that morning and people who I have stayed in touch with. And I can only tell you it was a scene of chaos and of much grief.
What about New York? What about 9/11? What was your activity there?
Well, you know what happened as a result of establishing the Family Assistance Center here in Oklahoma City. We became part of what was known as the Oklahoma Standard. The mayor's talked about that from time to time. I'm sure you've talked about it on this program. But we created a template of people who were caring, compassionate, courageous, people who would rush to the scene. The way the community came together, both the business sector, the faith sector, the government sector, and the way that we cooperated and were able to help the families became a model. So after 9/11, there was the need to establish a family assistance center there in New York City. I was asked to come and do a couple of things. One, speak at a Red Cross conference that was full of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mental health workers and other caregivers to talk about our Oklahoma City experience. Second thing was to go down to Ground Zero and minister and care for those who were still working on the scene. The third thing was to go to that Family Assistance Center and just help and make some observations. Then later, the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association put together a team of people, which included then Mayor Kirk Humphreys and others, and we did little conferences all throughout New York City teaching faith leaders how to handle this tragic event in their own communities.
Brad Yarbrough is our guest today on The Verdict. We'll be right back with more.
The thing that has made the most sense for me is realizing that I am still an educator, and that is what I do at the Chickasaw Nation. I'm Dr. Amanda Cobb-Greetham. I'm a historian, and I'm Chickasaw. The Chickasaw Cultural Center is amazing. It is a very, very special place devoted to the sharing and to the celebration of Chickasaw history and culture. State-of-the-art technology, exhibits that are not like anything I've ever seen. The Spirit Forest is incredible, and you feel as if you have actually just walked into a forest with huge trees all around you. It's timeless, and yet it's sort of also representative of our time depth, to really just sort of reach through time and touch the past. By the end of the exhibits, you really have a sense of Chickasaw cultural and political resurgence and the extent to which we are a healthy, dynamic, and vital tribe today. Chickasaws have always been an inclusive people. This is something for the whole community and for the state of Oklahoma.
I don't want to hope for the best. I want to become it.
I want you to see my potential.
Because I can be more than average. I can be amazing.
Because I know the hard way
and the right way
are one and the same.
I will make you proud.
And surpass even my own expectations.
I will lead.
I will lead.
I will lead America's energy future.
Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry. Proud to equip Oklahoma students for greatness.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Brad Yarbrough is our guest. Tell me a little bit about Pilgrim, the business side.
Well, thank you. Pilgrim is, actually there's two Pilgrims. The first Pilgrim is Pilgrim Consulting Group. Through that company, I've been providing management and leadership services to major companies and small companies really throughout the world. One of the interesting activities of the Pilgrim Group is my going to Ukraine. It used to be a couple of times a year. This last couple of years, perhaps just once a year. Oftentimes I'm joined by Chick-fil-A executives. Now you talk about a group that has their management philosophy down to a T, it's those people. So I've enjoyed that, and I usually speak on customer service or on leadership. Now the other Pilgrim is Pilgrim Land Services, and we have energy clients, and they want oil and gas leases, or they want to build a pipeline or a high wire transmission line, and our people go out and acquire the right-of-way or acquire the leases. That's what our land company does.
You've been involved in wind energy also, have you not?
Well, we'd like to be more involved, but you know, wind has suffered because there's not the tax credits that there once were, and then also with the very low price of natural gas, it has become a less favored alternative energy resource. But there was a time when we were pioneering the agreements and obtaining wind farm sites, and again, that's kind of tapered off.
The tax credits no longer make it a workable model?
Well, the model has a lot of different complex issues. One is you've got to get that electricity into the national grid.
Yeah,
that's one big issue.
You can't put it on a truck and ship wind.
That's exactly right. You can't ship wind and you can't ship electricity. You have to have the lines. So there are a lot of reasons why wind is a great idea, but there's a lot of reasons why it's going to be rather slow in making that a 20 or 25% source of our
And you think ultimately wind could grow into that, and Oklahoma could benefit?
Well, I'll tell you, I know this. We have a lot of wind in Oklahoma. I've added to it. I don't know. I think that it does have a place in our energy future.
Are utility companies working with you? I mean, are they amenable to these options?
Well, the big wind development companies are out there. We have several foreign companies that have big presence in the United States, and several, of course, U.S.-based companies. We don't really work, again, that robustly with those companies, and we do have a relationship with our local utilities, and we have some outstanding local utilities. Here in Oklahoma City, OG&E and ONG, two fabulous examples of well-run companies.
You've had an abiding interest in children forever. Tell our viewers about what your work with children has been, including as a foster parent.
You know, Ken, I'm just a product. I may be bad or good, but I'm just a product of my upbringing. Coaches who cared for me, youth directors who invested time in me, and that shaped me. So I've done work as a volunteer youth pastor back when I was in my 20s. Of course, when my son and daughter were playing sports as kids, I was the Little League coach or assistant coach. Then I started the homeschool high school basketball team here in Oklahoma City. And do you know that now that program is a national model? In fact, one of our homeschool teams, I think, just won the national finals in an out-of-state tournament. Then, scrolling forward, I've worked with the Leadership Foundation of Oklahoma, where we're partnering with the Oklahoma City Police Department to offer programs for kids. I became a foster parent because my daughter worked at Putnam West High School, my alma mater, and she said there's two girls that really need a home. And so just have always been interested in children. I've substitute taught years ago because of the way people invested in me when I was a kid.
Well, talk about the foster program and that experience for people who might just want to know more about it from a foster parent's point of view.
Well, if you're going to be a foster parent, you're not going to do it for the money. There's not a big payment. Hopefully you're doing it because you love kids and you believe that if you can invest in a child and help them break the pattern that might have been dysfunctional so that they can become productive citizens, you know that's a good thing. And so it's all about, caring for others. And I'll tell you this, it's not sometimes easy to become a foster parent. There's the training, there's home studies, but the DHS is working right now to try to make that process easier and better so we can get some quality foster parents in our system, because we have, and we all hate this, but we have a lot of children that need fostering. We have so many children that we have to use shelters, and we don't really like to use these temporary institutional shelters.
Is there a part of the state that has a greater need than other parts?
Our need is always more pronounced in Oklahoma City and in Tulsa. These two metropolitan areas represent huge needs.
What do you see as your mission as chairman of the commission? What are you going to try to accomplish?
I think that the Human Services Commission has to find its proper role in overseeing the agency. How do you get 9 volunteers that develop the subject matter expertise to effectively lead? One of the things that is really, really a burden is that we can talk about rearranging the chairs on the deck. We can talk about we need better food in the cafeteria. We can talk about need for more entertainment, but somebody better be talking about the iceberg that just hit the ship. And the iceberg that's hitting the ship at the DHS is more and more people requiring services. The families are breaking apart. More and more people are sliding into poverty. And so we have more need, but we have less resources to fix the need. And that's the big problem. So my job is going to be find the place to effectively serve, help the DHS order itself in a place it can deliver services in an excellent way, and figure out how we can do all that with less money.
Is the budget too big? Is the budget too small at the state level?
It's probably too small compared to our needs. And what's interesting is I'm a less government guy, Mayor, and I've always been conservative in my political thinking. And so for me to say we need more money in a government agency is against my better nature. But I'm just going to tell you, if we're going to take care of the people of Oklahoma, we may have to see an increase in the budget. And I'm hoping the governor and the legislators will realize the importance of that and help us.
Brad Yarbrough, our guest today on The Verdict. Thanks for delivering a diverse set of topics, and you have a fascinating life going. Keep it up.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Brad.
Right.
Thank you, Kent.
Kent and I will have a final word when we get back.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, Each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict, a very interesting show with Brad Yarbrough.
Yes, well, Brad has a very interesting background. He's done a lot of fascinating things. He works well with people, obviously. He's taken on a real huge job at DHS and is just doing a wonderful job at it.
There are so many Oklahomans who give over and over again, and Brad seems to be one of those people who gives of his time, from a volunteer oversight, gives his business experience, lends it to a state agency. At the same time, rolls up his sleeves and helps people in need in a very emotional state of their time. And a community can't have enough people like Brad. But I also know there's people out there who might never get the attention, might never be on The Verdict, who are also doing great work, and it's one of those reasons that makes the state such a great place.
Well, he can bring people together when there is indeed chaos around, and ask them to work together, and they will do it. Yeah. He's got great respect of his peers, great respect of the folks at the commission, the legislators, the governor, Speaker of the House, and all. He's done a masterful job in bringing a lot of people together.
Well, no question his time is stretched, but I bet it's a very fulfilling life, and we'll have to have him back on and talk more. He's a fascinating guy.
He's always in a good mood, I know that.
All right. Let me take you to our website, theverdict.tv. If you have an idea for a show or a guest you'd like to see on an upcoming edition of this show, you can go there, theverdict.tv. Tell us about them. For Kent, I'm Mick. We'll see you next week right here on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.